transition. We have Thor in the studio today, Asim's dog. Guys, welcome back to the StrongAF Club podcast. As always, I'm your co-host, Nate Craig, joined by...
Asim Fayez.
And guys, today, in episode 9, we're talking about nutrition, just in time for summer. Let's get those summer bods ready. Make sure our diet's on point, guys. So, Asim, let's jump into it. First question is, how much protein should I be eating daily?
So a general rule of thumb is if you are fairly lean-ish, under 20% body fat for men, etc., I would say 1 gram per pound of body weight is probably a safe bet starting point. If you are not as lean, a little thick,
with 2 C's.
Yeah, 2 C's. Then I would probably go like 0.8 to 0.9 grams per pound of body weight. Or another one you can do is 1 gram per pound of goal weight, the next goal, not the ultimate goal, but the next goal. If you're 200 pounds, you want to go down to eventually 150. Don't eat 150. I'd probably shoot for like 190 or 180 as your starting point. Then once you hit there, then readjust.
Okay, gotcha. Second question is, should I cut carbs to get lean? I think this is a big one. A lot of people are like, I'm trying to get that summer bod ready. I'm not eating bread. I'm not eating rice. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that one is definitely a controversial one. I think a lot of people look at carbs as a demon, and they look at it as the thing that makes everyone gain weight and what we need to manipulate to lose weight. However, I don't think you need to cut carbs necessarily to lose weight. I think you need to cut calories. So what I would say is, without adjusting your protein, so keep your protein around 1 gram per pound of body weight or whatever we said in the last question, if whichever category you fall into. From there, I would then adjust your carb and or fat intake to facilitate the remainder of your calories.
Okay.
So find out how many calories you need to be consuming to facilitate your goal. Then hit your protein number. And then from there, the remainder of the calories will come from either the fats or carbs. Part of that's going to be preference, because sure, there's more scientific ways to approach it and say, this is the absolute most optimal way. But what's optimal is not usually what actually happens in reality.
Right.
So what I would say is find whichever one your natural taste buds lean towards. If your inclination is to be more carb heavy, right? You're Italian or Middle Eastern, you like those carb rice pasta meals, then send it. If not, and you're more like a carnivore person and you want to get the rest of your calories through fats, then so be it. So I would say hit your protein goal and hit your calorie goal by a combination of carbs and fats. That's what I would do if the general goal is to lose weight and or gain weight. Just manipulate the other two. Don't mess with the protein.
Gotcha. Okay. And this kind of ties into the carbs and whatnot is, what should people be eating before and after a workout?
That's a good question. First is you got to consider your goal. So if you're bulking or cutting, etc. So I would say a lot of times people focus on what they should do before and after, and what no one really thinks about is what they should do during. So intra-workout nutrition is just as important in my opinion, because the gym is where you're going to stimulate, right? That's where you create a stimulus or a reaction for your body to then, a response for your body to react to.
Right.
So if you don't have the ability to maintain an output during your session because you're going flat, you're depleted, etc., intra-nutrition workout is what's going to help you be able to maintain that RPM for longer in that session, so you have a better quality session. So instead of getting only 80% of that session, you're getting closer to 90, maybe even 100. 100 is almost impossible, but getting as close to perfect as possible by allowing your body to be full and energized during that session.
Are you talking about like maybe fast digestible carbs, like
a
shot of soy sauce or a little bit of honey, or what kind of foods are you thinking of when you're
they make
talking
carb
about
powders like Carbolin, dextrose, things like that, Gatorade, anything that your stomach can handle without bloating, and that coincides with your goal. Then for before and after nutrition, I like to kind of lump all carb intake in general around the workouts, because the way I look at it is the protein facilitates muscle growth, so that should be all day long. But the carbs is the gas in your car. So the analogy I like to think about when I'm eating carbs is the gas in my car. If we're sitting here, we're doing this podcast, I'm not going to pause it and say, hey, let me go grab some gas, put it in my car, come right back. So if you're not doing anything, that's not really a good time to utilize the carbs and consume it, because what is it going to be used for? Your body will just eventually store it. So I think putting the carbs around your workout so that way it can be used immediately for those workouts is going to be your best bet. So I'd say before and after workout, carbs. Before workout, really, really fast digesting carbs. Fiber count probably low, so that way you don't have bulk that you're trying to digest going into the session.
Yeah.
Proximity does matter, and that's individual as well. I know for me, 2 to 3 hours before a workout, maybe 2 hours before a workout is where I would like to have something. But anything within that window, I feel too sluggish in the workout, especially if it's a bigger meal. So I like to have a few hours before I work out. And then post-workout, you want fast-acting carbs, but you also want some slow-acting carbs. So that's when you can get more complex carbs in your system. Before the workout, I would say prioritize protein, and after workouts, prioritize protein. But the difference is, before the workout, you don't really want fatty protein. So you want leaner cuts.
Okay.
You don't really want to be doing like a peanut butter sandwich, stuff like that. Because what I find is, and this isn't really scientific, this is just after the last 15 years of observing clients have great workouts and shit workouts. The common denominator is when I see people vomiting all the time and or having stomach issues or just feeling sluggish is they had a fattier meal before. And my theory is because fats digest ultra slow in your system. They're very satiating. They fill you up, but they digest really slow.
And it's just kind of sitting there while they're pushing
I think your
themselves
body's still in a digestion mode, and then you go ask it to jump, turn, twist, exert, brace. I think that is a recipe for disaster to have a really shitty feeling workout.
Yeah.
So I would generally tell people carbs like a rice cake with honey, etc. A chicken with rice, whatever you enjoy beforehand. That's easy for your stomach to digest, which isn't what my stomach can handle. We're all different there. And then after a workout is where you can kind of eat whatever protein you want. That's why I usually like to have the fattier cuts with the complex carbs. And then if you're someone who is in a very depleted state, maybe consider, and you have long workouts, maybe consider intra-workout nutrition. And if you're someone who's bulking up, definitely consider intra-workout nutrition.
Really? Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, because I'm seeing sometimes people lifting, they're pounding a shake like while they're working out, and actually I was like, what the heck are these guys doing?
Yeah,
so that actually makes more sense.
Yeah, I definitely want to do like one of those pre-made shakes like we have right over here, like the ones that are pre-made with casein or concentrate protein in there, because there's a lot of dairy and fat in that, and that'll also slow you down and make you probably want to vomit during a workout. You don't really want to drink a glass of milk and jump around. So I would say, if you're bulking, you have the budget, the carb budget in your spending, daily spending per se, to allow for intra-nutrition to then boost your training performance. Like when I have longer training sessions, I'll sip on a carb drink. Gatorade is my go-to. It's just simple, easy. It's everywhere. It's easy to access. Consistency and simplicity is key above all else. So that's just an easy one I know is a reliable source that I can always have on hand is a 7-Eleven down the street. If you're cutting, though, it is valuable to have it intra-workout, but you got to be careful because it's still calories your body's consuming in the day.
Right.
So you got to think about your budget, and the deeper you get into a cut, the less of a budget you'll have. You'll start having to get a little bit more creative on how you allot it. Because if you have a lot of carbs during the workout, that doesn't really give you a lot of leeway to have carbs during the day when you're not working out, and that can make meals a little annoying, is what I noticed.
That is so true, because I know prior to my workouts, I found out the secret. Hey, carbs prior to your workout give you a bunch of energy to push a little bit extra. But I would be eating a ton of rice and stuff like that, and then next thing I knew, by the end of my workout, hey, I already hit my carb count for the entire day. Now I can't eat crap.
Yes.
So it's, yeah.
I think if you're going to be eating out of Tupperware, which I don't necessarily recommend, it can work. But for what most people are going to be doing in their day, most people fail because they try to make their diet so strict that they have to prep everything. But what happens when you go to social events, work meetings, etc., you travel, you're screwed. So I think kind of future-proofing your diet approach is the most realistic way, because obviously if you cooked everything and you prepped everything and measured it out, you can allot for X amount of carbs in your intro workout and before and after. But that's just not how the world actually works. Like if you're someone who has a schedule that allows that, for sure, by all means, go for it, because you will hit your targets easy. But that's not how most people's lives are set up. They got kids, they got real shit to be dealing with, travel, work meetings, social events, and all that revolves usually around food. Any celebration in the Western world revolves around food.
Yeah.
You get a promotion, let's go eat. You hit a goal or whatever it is, an accolade, you graduated, let's go eat. Birthday, let's definitely eat.
Yeah.
So you're not future-proofing yourself by living out of a container. But what that does allow you to do is be more measured. So I think just having a realistic approach and setting expectations is good.
So that actually kind of ties into, you almost answered a question that I was saving for later. Let me find that. Yeah, what is the best way to kind of track your macros without going insane? Because kind of like what you just said, I think people get so gung-ho about it. They meal prep for the whole week. By the time it's that 7th day, the chicken's smelling nasty. And I think people just burn out.
Absolutely. I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do too, right? So it's that time of year where everyone's cutting, so I don't really think too many people are going to want to listen to bulking advice, but I'm going to give that anyways, just because if you listen to this in the winter, you probably wanted to bulk up. But from a cutting perspective, there's multiple ways you can diet. You can track your macros, but that would require you to write out exactly what you eat, scan it, or and have an app that you can do it or handwrite it. It's a little bit more tedious, and that is what I find an anxiety-inducing for a lot of people. A lot of people get stressed out doing that, so it's probably not the best bet if you're one of those people who does get stressed out doing something like that. The other route is more of a structure-based, where it's like, all right, well, these are the meals I'm going to be eating each day, and here are my meal options. So giving yourself like 2, 3, 4 options per meal, like you already pre-planned it, is probably a really good, solid point, because now you can kind of put together any kind of combination of diet to achieve your goal. And then the last one is just having rules. My opinion, the rules one for me works the best. I mean, I cheat a little bit. My wife's a nutrition coach, so I kind of just like, hey, should I eat this or should I not eat that? But I think for the most part, I see the most successful clients when we just set up rules. A simple couple of rules you can do if you're cutting is the only macro you should track is your protein, in my opinion. So track your protein, make sure you're hitting it, and make sure every single time you consume a meal, eat protein. There's a quote I heard a long time ago. I forget who said it. Have what you want as long as you have what you need. So if you're gonna have your carbs, right? You're gonna have your whatever, potato, your ice cream, whatever. Just make sure you pair it with something you need. So with protein, the protein will slow down that insulin spike, so it's not as detrimental to your body as well, and you're not gonna have that crash afterwards. So pairing every time you eat, every carb you eat with protein, or just making sure you have it in every meal, will make it easy to hit your target. Because that protein number is going to be pretty high, and most people really undereat their protein goal.
And to your point, you know, I'm one of those people that have gone through the ebbs and flows of going a little bit crazy, over tracking to the point where I just burn myself out. And like you mentioned, really, if you're hitting that protein goal, be conscious of how many carbs you're eating. Yes. Be conscious of how much fat.
Absolutely.
But you don't need to necessarily weigh everything to the gram unless you're going into a bodybuilding show or something like that. Just be mindful of what you're eating.
I think for the last probably 7 years or so, I haven't tracked my macros for any of my cuts or bulks. I every now and then will calculate it just to be like, well, I'm curious to see where I'm at, and I'll get a ballpark because I kind of eat the same things with an S, with a large S at the end of that, and I just rotate the same 3 breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, and I just add a little bit more when I'm bulking, reduce a little bit more slowly as I'm cutting. And the rule I follow when I'm cutting is make sure there's protein in every meal, make sure that I know this is kind of hypocritical because you guys see me miss meals recently, but don't miss meals. In a perfect world, don't miss meals.
Hey, we've been grinding. We'll cut you some slack this time.
So don't miss meals, and then don't eat till you're full. And that was a huge one. Is a lot of people eat till they're full because they're a part of a clean plate club, and I was a part of that as well. But
I think a lot of us kind of grew up that way. Like, finish your food. You can't leave the table until you finish your food.
Exactly, and I think that is a death sentence for a lot of people because what happens if you get a bigger plate? You're screwed, right? Sure. So I think that changing your mindset there to eat till you're content, not till you're full. Wait 5 to 10 minutes and assess: am I hungry or am I bored?
Right.
A lot of times people will just mindlessly eat because they're in conversation or they're bored, so they keep eating. So if you eat till you're kind of content and you're not, that hunger feeling isn't there anymore, and you hit your protein, eat your protein first in every meal, and then eat everything else. Protein's way more satiating, so eat that, and then you're less likely to binge on the bad stuff on your plate. Eat that first, then eat the carbs if it's possible. Obviously, there's some meals where it's all mixed into one. Do that. If you're satisfied a little bit and you feel kind of content, wait 5-10 minutes, talk, look at your phone, scroll, whatever. And if you ask yourself after 10 minutes, I'm still hungry, then continue eating. Otherwise, if you're not, you're good to go. Move on.
Yeah.
I think that has been the easiest way for me to cut is I make sure every meal I stay to the same relative frequency, make sure I'm eating as much protein as I can whenever I can, but I never eat till I'm full.
That's smart. All right, I got another one for you. Is intermittent fasting good for fitness in general? There's this big craze of all the different time windows and whatnot. Now, yeah, what do you think about intermittent fasting?
Ooh, that's a big fad one. That's like the bulletproof coffee era.
Is the bulletproof coffee when you put like butter in your coffee or something?
Ghee and like MCT oil and all that stuff.
It messed me up.
All I saw is people like living in the bathroom after that. They're putting flags down, camping out. I think Yeah, so with intermittent fasting, I think it is doable. I think it works to a degree because it forces you to eat within a window. However, all intermittent fasting does is structurally change when you're eating. It really should be named skip breakfast diet because you're just skipping that first meal essentially of the day. And most people are drinking their coffee or whatever. Then a lot of these things have small calories. So by technically you are breaking your fast. But even if you're not breaking your fast, it comes down to what you're actually eating. Like whether I deposit my bank account, deposit a check into my bank in one go in the middle of the day or spread throughout the entire day doesn't change the bottom line by the end of the day. So how many calories you're consuming in the day and how much protein you're consuming is ultimately the most important thing. How much you're burning, how much you're outputting, and how much you're inputting. Well, is there a deficit? Is there an honest deficit? That's the hard one. And then what does that look like in the totality of the month, the week, the year? If you are net deficit, you will lose weight. Theoretically, unless you have an underlying health issue, or you're taking medication that makes that difficult. But if you're strength training and you're at a deficit, you'll lose. So is intermittent fasting the magic bullet? Absolutely not. But it does help some people from overeating because they don't have time to eat a lot or they're not big eaters. So eliminating that entire meal will essentially put them in a deficit. But when you hit a wall and you plateau, then what?
Yeah.
Do you just
we had an episode about plateaus, by the way. I think it was 6. Go check that one out. That was a good one.
Yeah. So I think at that point, like, you're not really giving yourself a lot of leg room. So all intermittent fasting is, it's not a diet, it's a structure. It just tells you when you're eating and for how long you're going to be eating for and how long you're not going to be eating for. But it's not a diet because you can kind of input anything you want. You can do carnivore, you can do vertical, you can do pescatarian. Like, literally, you can do anything within it. You can bulk. I've bulked while doing it, and I cut. I did intermittent fasting for many, many years. Whether I was bulking up and I would go up 2-3 weight classes, or I would cut going down another 2 or 3 weight classes. There's a 40-pound fluctuation I would have over the course of 2 years, up or down, depending on what weight class I wanted to be in. But I did it through intermittent fasting. It was purely because I wake up, I slept in, I would rush to work, I miss breakfast, train clients, work out, train clients, work out, go back home. So I didn't have a lot of time to eat.
Yeah.
Also, it made transitioning into Ramadan really freaking easy because all I had to do was push that window back a little bit.
Push it back like an hour.
Yeah, because that's what the first Ramadan I did. I was like, this is rough. So I was like, well, but I felt great by the end of it. And I was like, what would happen if I just drank water throughout the entire time I'm not drinking water and just change the window? Then I just did that because I was still able to get my calories in. And what I found was instead of eating more frequent meals, especially on a cut, eating smaller but bigger meals made me not feel like I was on a cut.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Thor.
And I got one more for you. Sorry, our little co-host here, Thor's wandering off. We don't want him to bonk the camera. The last question I got for you, Asim, is does lifting or doing cardio on an empty stomach, does that burn fat faster as opposed to if you did kind of eat beforehand?
Theoretically, yes. If you don't eat before your workout and you come in with an empty stomach, your body will have to use fuel from somewhere. So if there's not a readily available source coming in right then and there from the food you just ate, then it's going to be whatever you have stored. So working out in a fasted state can expedite that process a little bit. But it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be a make or break. Is it going to add percentages in the right direction, just like some supplements would? For sure. But whether you did or didn't, I don't think it's going to make or break your goal.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's all the time we have for you today. Thanks for tuning in to episode 9 of the StrongAF Club podcast. As always, comment down below. We want to hear your questions and thoughts in general. And thanks so much for all the support, guys. See you on the next one.